Welcome back to the Budget Gamer channel, where you can find reviews on the latest or at least the cheapest indie games out there. Today we're going to be looking at the latest installment of the Fear Effect series that came out earlier this year, and in this case it's a game that maybe gamers who are currently a fan of the Fear Effect series might not enjoy it as much as people who are new to it. But whether you're an existing fan or a new one, you're likely going to have to be a fan of those early 2000s graphic styles as well as the cyberpunk gaming genre. The entire original cast of the Fear Effect series has been brought back in Fear Effect Sedna, as high-value artifacts are disappearing all around the world and some crazy things are starting to happen. And as this team of good-natured rogue mercenaries has seen hell and lived to tell about it, they're the perfect team to be contracted to figure out exactly what's going on. But if you have played the earlier Fear Effect games released before 2000, this one does throw a bit of a change up in the actual gameplay. Fear Effect Sedna goes for a more tactical style, and as such the third-person shooter effect is being put in the backseat to a fixed camera, third-person tactical perspective. In nearly every aspect of gameplay, you'll be required to take control of between 2 and 4 members of your party all at the same time. And this is where the unique tactical system of Fear Effect Sedna comes into play. By pressing the select button, you go into an active pause window that allows you to control, move, and manipulate each of your characters at once. Effectively, this allows you to pause the game and then script the movements and even which items your characters can use, all before going back into combat. And while this can be used as a large advantage for active combat, it isn't really that useful in the game overall, as the most effective form of combat is stealth. Creeping up to a character dispatches them immediately, whereas being sighted causes the enemies to swarm your position immediately. So avoiding combat whenever possible will always be your best advantage. However, in the case of boss fights, this active pause tactical option becomes a massive advantage for moving the other characters out of harm's way or dispersing them from AoE damage. So depending on what type of gamer you are, you may or may not even use this new system. However, aside from the actual combat dynamics of the game, puzzles are a must. Nearly every new setting in gameplay introduces you to another new area-based puzzle that requires you to solve it in order to progress. These puzzles actually are really ingenious and do require you to pay specific attention to your environment in order to find their solutions. And this means that you're really not going to be able to hammer fist your way through the puzzles, and depending on what type of gamer you are, you may or may not appreciate that fact. But moving back to the combat system for just a second, the title of the game, Fear Effect, alludes to the Fear Effect system. This system more or less means that the more damage you take or the longer you're in combat, the more fear you have. And the more fear you have, the more damage you can deal, and the more damage you take when you get hit. So pretty much the lower your HP, the higher your damage output is, but it would be way too easy to play the game if you could have a high fear effect and a high HP, so of course healing your character at all will lower your fear. And this basically creates a little bit of a stressful conflict for the player over deciding whether they should heal or whether they should be a more effective death dealer. However, as med kits are everywhere in the game, and again, the higher your fear, the more damage you're taking, it's probably always going to be more effective to just heal your character and continue to play. I'd have to say though that above the innovations of the combat systems, I really love the environments in the game. They were vivid and made every single location seem unique and different. And as the combat doesn't really change all that much the deeper you get into the game, those environments and scene changes were one of the things that really kept it nice and interesting. But there is actually one diversion from the stealth or tactical combat styles that you may want to be aware of. And that is, as you may probably have guessed, the boss fights. If you thought sneaking up to random enemies or engaging with them in tactical combat using multiple characters was easy enough, getting into a boss fight is where the game takes that back and raises the difficulty up a couple levels. Bosses, though they do look maybe a bit too cartoony for some people's tastes, have massive amounts of hit points and require you to chip away at them for far too long. And while most of the other aspects of the game can allow you to cruise through really easily, you must figure out the combat systems, or at least how to avoid being hit for long enough to take them down. And though this ramped up difficulty level for the boss fights might actually pose an enticing challenge for certain gamers, it doesn't really fit the game's overall difficulty level. And I think that that might be dissuasive to certain players who are trying to uncover the story and work this more as a puzzler game. And in all honesty, I think that the story actually is one of the stronger points of the game, and it really is worth exploring. Most of the overall intrigue of the game is that the artifacts and creatures being described, the things that you must confront, are from actual Inuit legend. And in that sense, the borrowed continuity of these Inuit legends really does add to the strength and structure of the game. And overall, I'd have to say that the varied level design and the actual combat and stealth systems are really solid. However, there are a few negatives, and they're not just based on the previous expectations of fans of the earlier series. Primarily being that several major aspects of the combat systems of the game can be completely ignored and you can play through the game just fine. And the next that doesn't have to do with art or character dialogue would have to be the puzzle system. The puzzles are unique and innovative, but unfortunately if you have one single misstep, it's game over. So you're not really puzzling your way through, you're just dying and starting over until you get it right. And that in and of itself kind of hinders the learning curve and infringes a bit on replayability, but I don't think it's an overall game breaker. There were a lot of good aspects to Fear Effect Sedna, but I think that this is actually where a new player to the series might get more enjoyment than somebody who has expectations based on the previous. But either way, on sale for $5, you really can't complain that much, especially if you're a diehard fan and just want to add this to your collection. But anyway, that about wraps up the review of Fear Effect Sedna on the Switch eShop. So if you enjoyed the review or found it helpful, feel free to throw me a like or a comment to show your support. And don't forget to click that little bell icon when you subscribe to stay updated with the latest content. There are new and unique indies coming out almost every day, so there's always going to be something new to find right here. But anyway, this has been Budget Gamers. As always, thanks for watching.